Welcome back to the show. Joining us now on the couch is Gabe Linderman, one of the 9 GoPro Mountain Games athletes selected to represent the Mountain Games this year. Gabe, how are we?
I'm doing fantastic. How are you, Ross?
Doing great. So the Mountain Games, one of the biggest, best events we have out here, put on by the nonprofit Vail Valley Foundation, June 6th through the 9th. You are a climber slash boulderer.
Indeed.
One of the coolest events out there. They set up the wall right at the base of Gondola 1, one of the best spectating events out there. What was it like last year, your first time attending the GoPro Mountain Games?
You know, the thing that struck me last year was just the community vibe. Like in qualifiers, so you have like amateurs and professionals competing to get into semis and then finals. And what was really cool is I had coworkers there were professional athletes competing. It was just this mix of people from all different athletic backgrounds. That's what I think is really special about that specific event, but the whole GoPro Mountain Games, like as a festival, is like that, which is something I really value.
Yeah, I mean, it's tons of different sports. It's got mountain biking, if you're not familiar, trail running, kayaking, tons of sports, and live music. So much going on around the Mountain Games. And then that climbing wall, like those are the guys that are trying to get in the Olympics. Like, I don't think people realize this is some high level climbing and bouldering, but can you explain exactly like what it is? In the sports world for people?
Totally. So normally part of the GoPro Mountain Games is part of the National Cup Series for USA Climbing. But yeah, it's kind of on this path to the Olympics. A lot of people aren't trying to get to the Olympics, but there are certainly athletes of that caliber there. And it's cool because I can walk up as a like semi-pro athlete and still compete. And then there are people that are like absolutely crushing me in every boulder, which is it's just fun.
Yeah, it's a blast out there. And then were you able to like rub elbows with some of the other athletes out there?
Yeah, it was really nice because I could walk around and just say hi to people and be like, hi, I saw you in this climbing film a year ago. I think you're awesome. And then I'd see like an athlete that I coach for my job. Like
amazing.
That mix is really special.
Amazing. And then so the VVF just recently announced 9 athletes, which you're on that list. What does that mean? What does that entail? What's the responsibilities of being a GoPro Mountain Games athlete?
Yeah, so being on the team means that we're talking about the games, promoting the games, but we're also helping each other and supporting each other in our own sports. So if you don't know, like all of the athletes have their own niche kind of vibe in their athletic world. Yeah. And it's really cool because we can get together and talk about challenges, we can talk about training stuff, but the reality is we're doing really, really different stuff on a day-to-day basis, but it's cool to have a group that you can go to support each other, support the great games, and just talk about stuff.
Yeah, and then so you mentioned you come from Michigan.
Indeed.
Go Blue. And then you've been in Colorado about 4 years. What's the vibe like out here in that climbing world, you know? Like, what's the scene?
Yeah, it's really, really different. The climbing world in Colorado is sort of freaky. You kind of have to be like an incredible athlete to be talked about. But it's also a really fun environment to live in. So it's being surrounded by people that are a lot better at me than in most sports. And that for me is really motivating. But it's also a challenge. You know, I go back to Michigan and I can climb most of the routes in the gym. I can hang out and like I feel like this cool climber guy, and then I'm out here and I'm like, I'm a very normal person.
It's so true. It humbles you really quickly out here with your peers and stuff. But it's great, and then you get to learn from them and kind of aspire to build up to stuff. So that's awesome. For the Mountain Games coming up June 6th through 9th, what's going on in the next couple months as you gear up for this? Are you training? Are you competing? What's the world
For me,
like?
it's mostly training. And climbing's my main sport, but I'm also running and biking a lot, lifting a little bit. So for me, it's just like trying to get faster and stronger and better. And then probably come around March, I'll focus really strong on climbing so I can, bring my best to the Mountain Games.
Yeah. What does training for a climber look like? Is a lot of like finger work and getting your fingers strong? Or?
Honestly, it's just a lot of climbing. Yeah. Like, that's what I spend most of my time on. I also, like, lift and run and do all these other things, but it's mostly because I think it's fun, not because it's, like, an efficient way to get better at rock climbing.
Yeah, definitely. So outside of climbing and everything else you're doing, do you work? What else do you do?
Yeah, so I work at the Spot Climbing Gyms, which is this local chain of gyms in Front Range, Colorado. My primary responsibility is managing the youth competitive teams, so I spend most of my time like supporting coaches and supporting kids to get stronger in rock climbing, which is the most motivating and inspiring job you can imagine for a rock climber.
Yeah, but then you literally get to see them get to the top of the mountain, which has got to be rewarding, right?
It's pretty cool. And what's even more rewarding is like I'll meet a kid, they've been climbing for a year, we welcome them onto a competitive team, And then a year later, they're like sending what I'm working on. Like they're crushing me out there,
Love
which
that.
is just so
Love that.
cool.
How is the scene with the younger? Like, we've got to keep passing it on to the next generation. We feel comfortable with that right now? Are we
It's pretty
doing
cool.
anything? Yeah.
We're raising like freak athletes at this level. Climbing is going to an incredible place in the next couple of years.
Yeah.
It's really inspiring to see.
Yeah, and it is an Olympic sport now. So, I mean, it's kind of blowing up a little bit in popularity. And again, at the Mountain Games, it's one of the most popular events to watch. I don't think people really know what's going on anyways, but it's just amazing to see these guys hanging from their fingertips. And you talk about athletes, like there's some of the best athletes out there at the Mountain Games, or in the world really, but just freak athletes, like you said.
Mm-hmm.
What got you into the sport? How do you kind of get into this thing?
Yeah, so like we mentioned, I'm from Michigan, so rock climbing's not like an easy thing to just stumble into. But I have this really vivid memory of my mom picking me up from high school when I was like 13 or 14, and somehow the conversation drifted to me being scared of heights and like still being scared of heights as a teenager. And she's a super loving, caring person, but her response was kind of just like, we should go fix that. Like, we should go fix that problem. So after like a week or two of arguing back and forth, my mom dragged me to the climbing gym, and it just kind of became our way of like spending time together. And skip forward well over a decade, and she's in her 60s, like crushing 512 on a rope, and I'm a sponsored athlete working in the industry. It's just like a really cool relationship with my
amazing.
mom.
Is she like stoked on that? What's the next fear she's trying to get you through now?
I don't know. Every time that we bring up like climbing on a rope, which isn't really my jam, she's like, we should go on this trip or do this thing. And I'm like, all right, cool. I can rally for that.
Yeah. Well, that's a good clarification with the rope. So bouldering at the GoPro Mountain Games, they're climbing, 10 to 15, 16 feet.
Exactly.
The challenges are set up every day differently, but they're not harnessed into anything. So they're just climbing up this wall, free solo in it.
Yeah, exactly. And you're always falling. You're hitting like, a foot and a half of foam or something. But sport climbing, you're on a rope. You're being caught by a belayer, which super fun, just like still scary for me even in my like 20s.
Do you have like a celebration that you always do at the top? Because there's some of the coolest photos that come out of that event are those guys at the top and gals at the top just so stoked about it and then just falling down.
I agree. I think that stuff is awesome. I never have like a signature thing. Most of the time if I'm crushing it, I'm like hugging the person next to me. I'm a big crier at events. Like I'm just happy to be there.
Yeah. Outside of the climbing at the Mountain Games, were you able to check out any of the other events or what?
Yeah, so I ran a trail race last year, which was awesome.
Yeah.
Like so much fun. This year I think I'm probably going to do a bike race. I'll do a trail run again.
You should do Pepe's Face Off.
I should. Yeah, I should suffer a little bit. I think that'd be great.
Yeah.
But I think what's cool about the Mountain Games is you can go and not compete and just wander around, and there's always something awesome happening in front of you, which is really special.
Yeah, Mountain Games, it has all the swag. There's just 100 tents of all the newest gear for you. Tons of events from sunup to sundown, and then there's concerts at night. Were you able to check out any of the live music?
I didn't go to any of the concerts last year.
You'll have to check them out. Yeah. Live music at the Gerald R. Ford Amphitheater. It is a spectacular event, the GoPro Mountain Games. What are you looking forward to most about your second year?
I'm really excited to compete again. Like that was a special experience last year. I think it will be special this year and for years to come. But honestly, what I'm excited for is watching the slacklining. That's so foreign to me. Like I can't stand on a slackline. Like that's not my jam. And I remember last year watching people do flips on it. I was like, that's cool. Like I'm looking forward to that for a whole 12 months.
Yeah, they are, talk about freak athletes, those slackliners, same thing. They come from all over the world right here to Vail for the GoPro Mountain Games, and they put on what a show.
It's
right
special.
There in Solaris Plaza. Excuse me, for people that want to get into this sport, how hard is it? What do you recommend? Like, go to a gym, but like if it's a kid or an adult, like people that might want to get into this sport, how do they do it?
So in Colorado, honestly, it's not that difficult. There are obviously like financial barriers, but there are gyms everywhere. Almost every gym has adult programs and youth programs and instructional lessons. You can honestly walk into most gyms and you can just say, hey, I want to learn to rock climb, and someone's going to be helpful and supportive and help you out. It's a relatively friendly community, and I think it's just a really fun sport to get into.
Yeah, and I know here in Eagle County we have the Eagle Climbing Center, and they're taking their portable climbing wall all over the place, and kids are loving that thing.
Yeah.
So anything else we should have talked about?
I think that's it. I think if you haven't gone to the GoPro Mountain Games, you should. It's a really special place.
Yeah, June 6th through the 9th in Vail. It takes over the whole village. Gabe, stoked to have you on the team. Thanks for coming out. And we'll tune in. Registration usually starts up. If you do want to compete in the Mountain Games, you do have to sign up. but spectating is free, like you said, and yeah, I think it's going to be a great event this year. What do you think?
I think so too. I'm looking forward to it.
Awesome. Well, thanks so much for joining us. Check Gabe out at the GoPro Mountain Games returning to Vail June 6th through the 9th, and we will be back with the rest of the show.